So, market adjustment. So it's a 30 square roof. I'm charging $100 a square more, so I'm charging an extra $3,000 for market adjustment that brings me to the 75th percentile. So that's how I reflect that. You don't go in and change it from 350 to 400, because then you're manipulating the price database like some insurance companies do. Rather, you have a separate line item that reflects that this is the market adjustment, that I'm at the 75th percentile. And I'm charging an extra $300 for that because I'm in the 75th percentile. Difficulty factor. Some roofs are more difficult. Or maybe there's an issue of access because of the way the driveway is like this, and you have to wheelbarrow down all your waste or something like that. So there's a difficulty factor, so you put that in there. And you account for that in a line item. Market adjustment labor increase. Remember when we had Softball Hill hit Wiley, and it took them 9 months to reflect that the labor prices doubled overnight? Labor prices doubled overnight, didn't they, when Wiley hit, right? Because our crews aren't stupid. They may be from Mexico, but they're not stupid. They talk to each other. I mean, you couldn't even get them to do a pitched two-story roof because all they wanted was the low-hanging fruit, remember? You couldn't even get them to do it at any price for a few months anyway. So here's the labor increase. And you have a letter from your roofer that says that we're charging $75 a square more than before. You don't say that they went from 75 to 150 because it's none of their business what you're paying. That's none of their business. There's a $75 per square increase in labor rate. And you have that from their, ABC XYZ roofing company that's your sub. Market adjustment material increase. Same thing. So ABC, Beacon, whatever supplier comes out with a letter that says that there's an increase in, and Xactimate is sluggish, put that in a line item. Market adjustment, material increase. And then you have what? The letter from the supplier that justifies that line item. Every single line item you explain and justify using facts and evidence, and the third-party objective source material is their gold standard, which in this case is the supplier. Boom. Does that make sense?
See, what do you do though, and maybe I'm going to put the cart before the cart, or whatever, to help them saying when they just dig their heels in the ground? No, we're not paying.
Excellent question. So what you do is you go above their head, the next guy in authority, and you go up the ladder of authority, trying to find someone that can be reasoned with. And if you can find someone that can be reasoned with and you hit your number, then good. I'm good. Then go on to the next deal. If you've gone up the ladder of authority and no one can be reasoned with, then you actually have 4 options. Option number 1 is take it on the chin, which is what 85 to 90% of consumers do because they don't know that there's any other alternative. You can lawyer up. Most consumers are afraid to sue their insurance company, and so you're not going to get a whole lot of consumers willing to do that.
Well, and if it's $4,000 or $5,000, it doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense. It becomes an issue of diminishing returns.
Yeah.
Number 3, they can hire a PA. But isn't the PA dealing with the same people, the same obstructionists that you are? Actually, they are, right? Maybe they have more pull than you, maybe they don't, depending on the PA and the set of circumstances. Number 4 option is appraisal, where we actually completely circumvent the claims department. Once they name their appraiser, they have no involvement in the appraisal process, none. How'd you like to just go around the brick wall? That's appraisal. And I'm going to talk about appraisal at the end, if we have time. I think I will. Nope.
Is this video going to be available?
Yeah, I'm going to have it on my Facebook forum.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I have many contractors that will do the work for my price. Again, when you do your pre-adjustment conference, you're going to bring this up to the consumer. Your adjuster is a 50-50 chance that he's going to say this. Let me tell you what he's really saying, Mrs. Jones. What he's really saying is that I have many desperate contractors who don't give a rip about you, Mrs. Jones. They work for the insurance company, and they don't bite the hand that feeds them, do they? They have plenty of contractors who work for them that will do the work for their scope. They'll say, for my price, but price isn't the issue, Mrs. Jones. If you get one of those 50-50 adjusters, I'm going to have 65 line items and he's going to have 40. The issue isn't price, the issue is scope. It's the 25 line items that they're leaving off. And you've read all these purpose and function, purpose and function, purpose and function, and you see why we want to do a full roof system on your house and not piecemeal a roof. And that's what you want, isn't it, Mrs. Jones? Yes, it is. Boom. That's how you overcome that. Is they're reframing the issue to price when price isn't the issue. The issue is what? Scope. Don't let them reframe the issue. Make sense? The consumer prepays for apples, and I have a load of peddlers that are peddling oranges. So what? I paid for apples. I don't care how many. I couldn't care less if there's 1,000 peddlers selling oranges, because I paid for apples. It's apples and oranges, isn't it? Say it like that. 1,000 peddlers peddling oranges. Who cares? It doesn't matter what desperate peddlers are selling oranges for. The consumer paid for apples and doesn't want oranges. Set expectations. We talked about that with the pre-adjustment conference. I did not bargain. You can actually print this out on a card and have them read it. I did not bargain for a piecemeal roof, and I simply will not, under any circumstances, accept a piecemeal roof from you. Now do the right thing and indemnify me. How would you like the consumer to be saying stuff like that to their adjuster? How refreshing would that be? Put it on a card, print it so they can read it. Who cares? How would you like for a consumer to say that to you when you're an adjuster?
I would have laughed. I would have broke up, broke professionalism and laughed.
Not laugh at them.
No. Not laugh at them. Laugh
At their boldness.
the boldness. And also because I agree. But you and I both know you can't say that.
Yeah, the adjuster can't say I agree.
My understanding is, I don't know who you work for, but as an adjuster, especially ones that work initials SF, you may agree, but there's nothing you can do.
That's right.
I mean, you're screwed.
That's why you have to go up the ladder of authority to find someone who does have the authority to say yes.
You know, it's, from your independent adjuster standpoint, man, you're out of town. You got probably a $3,000 hotel bill. You've got 60 claims assigned to you. You're working 80 hours a week. You just follow the protocols. You don't get your files reassigned to somebody else. Okay, they kind of got you, and that's what got me. I was in the Northeast doing ice and water, right? And they wanted me to invoke concurrent causation on a bunch of files, and I had to. So because there's two losses, couldn't tell which loss caused the damage, right? Was it flooding or was it roof damage? They're wanting to deny those claims completely.
Pay for nothing.
Oh, by the way, that's what concurrent causation is. You know what it is. It's evil. It's in all homeowners policies.
Or many of them.
Yeah. And that burned me pretty good. And at that point I was done with it. So I did a few files, made just enough, had them reassign everything, and I was done.
And he hasn't adjusted a file since.
No, I haven't.
Because he has a conscience.
Didn't they waive that for Wiley because the storm happened like consecutively within 2 weeks of each other? Nope.
I don't remember.
What's concurrent causation?
Yeah.
You're talking about two different claims.
Right.
It's a different matter than concurrent causation.
They waived it to one deductible instead of two.
Yeah.
Yeah, the state can choose to do that at times.
And they've done that on hurricanes. Ivan goes this way, out into the Gulf, and then comes back and goes this way across the same place in Florida. The same storm, like 4 days later. One to go. Comparative analysis. Again, someone had mentioned back there, we're doing their work for them. So the comparative analysis is nice because it very quickly and succinctly shows exactly what remains in dispute between you and them. Because if they got 40 line items and you have 65 and you have some different pricing and stuff like that, sometimes it's difficult to tell exactly what the dispute is. So what you're going to do is you're going to use this to very precisely show what the dispute is. So what you do is you take their estimate and yours and you put them side by side. And you write their numbers on your estimate if it's different. If there's a difference in scope, you're saying 33 squares tear off and they're saying 31, then you write in red pen next to your 33, you write their number 31. There's a dispute in the amount of the tear off. If there's a dispute in the price, then you write their numbers in red next to your numbers. And in high school, anything in red is wrong. Their numbers are wrong. This is like a psychology thing, right? And you do that for every single line item. If they omit a line item, then next to the quantity you write 0. They left that line item off. They're at 0. Okay? So protect landscaping. There's that thing again. Protect landscaping. Have y'all seen that, what do they call it, catch-all thing? Is that genius? I like it. Now you can set yourself apart from all the other contractors that don't care about your shrubs and lawn, Mrs. Jones. Because we do. We use the catch-all thing. Anyway, so protect landscaping. They didn't include that, so 0. They omitted it. Temporary toilet. They didn't include one. 0. R&R tarp to go over the pool. They didn't put in there to cover the pool. To keep debris, roofing debris out of the pool, right? So their tear off is right, so I'll put a check mark, or you can put a little red dot that indicates that I double checked it, and we agree on the quantity and the price on that one. Remove roofing felt, 0. They didn't include remove roofing felt. They omitted it, so I have a 0 there. Laminate shingles. I'm at 173, they're at 172.50. $1.50 a square. If it's just a few pennies, don't even put that on there because it's negligible. But if it starts to be a big enough spread, then write their price next to yours. Maybe they're using an old price database. All right? And so you go on and on. I'm at 30-pound felt and they're at 15-pound felt. So you see what you're doing? You're defining the dispute between them and you so you know exactly what remains in dispute. And you go on and on and on. Starter, that was included in their 15% waste. Can a carrier force pricing on you, the contractor? Of course not. Where would they obtain the authority to do such a thing? They don't have it. We believe that they do, though, because we let them do that. Why do you let them do that? And by the way, you don't write estimates. People who don't know what the price of things write a guesstimate. And you're not writing a bid. This is my contract price. And so you call it that. It's not an estimate, is it? No. Adjusters write estimates because they don't know how things are going to cost. It's a guesstimate. They're guessing how much it's going to cost. You're not writing estimates and you're not writing bids. Your subs write bids. You're writing a what? A contract price. So call it that. Don't call it an estimate because that's not what it is. Call it your contract price. You like that? So, the insured has a contract with the insurance company to indemnify them. They have a contract with you to do the work. Are you a party to this contract? Can you dictate the terms of a contract you're not a party to? Obviously not. I mean, even if you don't know a whole lot about the law, you know that you can't insert yourself into a contractual relations and start dictating the terms of a contract you're not a party to. Are they a party to this contract? Can they dictate the terms of your contract? They can either agree to indemnify their insured or they can refuse to and breach their contract, which is called bad faith. But they can't dictate the terms of your contract because they're not a party to the contract. Where do they get off thinking they can dictate the terms of a contract they're not a party to? Isn't that absurd? Have you ever thought about it in these terms before? Probably not. By the way, Is it insurance fraud to include all building components, all of your labor costs, and every legitimate and reasonable line item at a fair market rate? Is that insurance fraud? Of course not. Question number 2. Well, as long as you're not throwing spaghetti against the wall. Adam addressed that. You're not throwing spaghetti against the wall to see what sticks, because that ruins your credibility. Is it insurance fraud for a carrier to continue to purposely, intentionally omit legitimate and reasonable building components, labor costs, and line items from their estimates after it's been brought to their attention? Yes. Let me tell you what is the definition of insurance fraud in Texas? Who here knows? You should know this. This is important stuff. So here I did a screenshot from the Texas Department of Insurance website. Would we agree that that's a credible, objective third-party source? Companies, agents, adjusters, doctors and hospitals or consumers committed insurance fraud when they lie or misrepresent facts for financial gain. So if someone at the insurance company is misleading the consumer for financial gain, that is insurance fraud by definition. If an engineer lies or misrepresents facts for financial gain because they're one of their pet engineers and they get more work, is that insurance fraud? Yes. This isn't a civil penalty thing where they pay a fine. What kind of law is this? Criminal. You go to prison for insurance fraud. Handcuffs. Do you know that there were executives and engineers that went to prison for insurance fraud from Hurricane Sandy? Yes. So they formed this new organization called the American Policyholder Association. Who here has heard of this? Well, a few of you. Good. In fact, Adam, you're on the advisory board. I'm going next weekend too. I was asked to be on the advisory board. Pretty cool. So what they do is, it's an association not of contractors and PAs and attorneys. No, it's much smarter than that. It's an association of policyholders who've been screwed by insurance companies. They're on the board of directors of this association. Because you know what? The attorney generals in the news media couldn't give a rip if you're being ripped off for insurance fraud. But they care about the consumer being ripped off for insurance fraud, don't they? So it's the American Policyholder Association, not the American Contractors Association, the American Policyholder Association. And then there's an advisory board. We advise them as professionals, contractors, PAs, attorneys, appraisers, other professionals. We give them advice, and then they make a decision based on all the facts that they have. And what they're doing is they're going out and they're talking to every attorney general in the U.S., every insurance company in the U.S., and the 2 U.S. senators in every state. At this point, they just formed about a month ago, and they've already talked to a dozen state attorney general's office. In fact, next weekend when we have the advisory board meeting, we're going to have the attorney general and the insurance commissioner for the state of Louisiana at the meeting. And we're going to educate them what the insurance companies and what their pet engineers are doing, so that they can be arrested for insurance fraud. How refreshing would that be? You know how much it costs for your clients, the consumer, to join the American Policyholder Association? Nothing. Zero. It's free. Now, as professionals, it costs $1,000 to join. Who here is a member besides me? Adam. Why aren't you a member? Is this something that we want these guys to be held accountable for their illegal acts? Yes, so join the American Policyholder Association, $1,000. We talked about the National Association of Insurance Commissioners, the Unfair Claims Settlement Practices Act. Don't use the M word, match. Rather use reasonably uniform appearance. We talked about that. Every one of their claims has to have a reasonably uniform appearance. Who decides what's reasonable? The adjuster? Nope, they have an axe to grind, right? A profit motive. Not the homeowner, they have a profit motive. But who could be an objective third-party source? How about a realtor that neither you or the consumer has a relationship with? Could they be an objective source that says this patchwork quilt roof has diminished the value of this property, the cost of the roof?
Use HOA guidelines.
HOA guidelines. See, objective third-party source, right? Has to have a reasonably uniform appearance. General contractor's overhead and profit. You guys aren't interested in that, so let's go past that. I'm going to do a whole day training on this. I'm just finishing up an O&P book, and there's not another one in existence. So most contractors actually don't get what overhead and profit what it really is and what's really going on. And the consumer certainly doesn't. So I wanted to create like an analogy, metaphor, that a fifth grader could understand so you understand what's actually going on with overhead and profit. And I did. It's called the cherry pie analogy. So it takes 2 minutes to explain this. So I've been having a hankering for cherry pie. You can tell I'm from Texas because I'm having a hankering for cherry pie. And I don't want no, store-bought cherry pie. I want a made from scratch cherry pie. So I go to a baker and I say, I want to order a cherry pie, fresh made from scratch. And they said that'll take about 3 hours and it's, $25. So I lay down my $25. I come back 3 hours later, open the door, and I smell the cherry pie and I go, oh man, I can't wait to tear into me some cherry pie. Is this it right here on the counter? And they go, yes. I opened the box and guess what? There's a slice missing. So if that happened to you, what would you say? What the hey? Where's my slice? Right? And they go, oh, well, you don't understand. See, there's not enough ingredients in the recipe, so you don't qualify for a whole cherry pie. This is all you get. Does that make sense? Number of trades? Number of ingredients in the recipe? What does the number of ingredients in the recipe have anything to do with, I paid for a whole cherry pie and I want a whole cherry pie? What does that have to do with anything? And they go, no, you don't understand. The recipe isn't complex enough. So this is all you're going to get. So shut up and just take your pie. Would you walk home with 5/6 of a cherry pie if you paid for a whole cherry pie? Would you? Not a single one of you in here would do that. And the consumers, though, they do this with overhead and profit all day long, every day. This is exactly the same thing. Let me use some nice round numbers to show what's going on here. Okay? So let's say the material and labor to build a house is $100,000. Yeah, I know that's not much of a house, but it's a nice round number. Okay? So what is the builder's fee? What is he going to charge on top of materials and labor? 20%. That's the builder's fee, right? So the total, not including architect fees and, there's some incidentals, but let's just keep it nice and round and simple. All right? So what percentage of the 120 is the builder's fee? 20%? Nope. 16.67%. It's not 20% of this, it's 20% of, or 20 divided by 120. It's 16.67. So of the $120,000 it costs to build the house, the builder's fee is 16.67%, or exactly 1/6. The same as the pie. Exactly 1/6. 20 of 120 is 1/6, right? So, that's your dwelling policy limits, because that's how much it's going to cost to rebuild the house if it burns to the ground for materials of like, kind, and quality with the same use and occupancy. Right? $120,000. So they charge $120,000. So you're paying premium based on this, and your client gets a settlement based on this. Now do you see what's going on? You're paying for a whole thing and you're getting 5/6 of something in return. What's that called? What do lawyers call that? Unjust gain or illegal windfall. Those are the terms. Imagine if someone hires you to do a roof and you do 5/6 of the roof. And you're getting paid for 6/6 and you do 5/6 of a roof. Would they accept that? That's what's going on here. I'm sorry, you don't qualify for brand new flashings because this roof isn't complex enough. But they paid for new flashings. They paid for the builder's fee. It's built in to the 120. It's the 20,000 of the 120. It's built in. They're paying premium based on this, and they're making insurance settlements based on that. It's the biggest scam in insurance. And now, not 5 out of 100 contractors actually know what's going on. You know you want it, but you don't actually know what the insurance company is doing, how the numbers work. Now you know. Very simple and simplistic. Well, not simplistic. It's simple. They'll say it's simplistic. It's not. It's simple because it is simple. So, there's your materials, there's your labor, and the orange is the builder's fee. It's built into the limits of your dwelling or the dwelling limits of liability or the building in the commercial building. It's built in. It's built into the premium. By the way, what is the industry standard to qualify for general contractor's overhead and profit? Anyone know?
That you're a general contractor?
Mm-hmm.
That you should be just a general contractor. It's a regional.
Is that the industry standard?
No, 3 trades, at least 3 trades.
Okay, 3 trades. Complexity, and what's the third one? Coordination. If there's coordination having to be done between the trades, right? Isn't that what the insurance industry says? Whose industry standard are we talking about here? The insurance company, the insurance industry standard, or the construction industry? I mean, whose industry are we talking about? We're talking about our industry. Since when does a totally separate industry dictate the industry standards of another industry? You tell me another industry where a separate industry is dictating the standards for this industry. Can you give me an example? No, of course not. It's none of their business. They're a different industry. The plumbers don't tell the electricians what their industry standards are, do they? No, because they're plumbers. So what if I were to tell you that there is an actual industry standard that exists in reality that you've never heard of, that doesn't have anything to do with number of trades, complexity, and coordination? What if I were to tell you that that's a bunch of nonsense? It's smoke and mirrors. It's a magician's trick. What an illusionist does, if he doesn't want you watching his right hand, he's flopping his left one around so that you're distracted looking at this and you don't see what he's doing over here. If you watch a magician, nothing on the stage is as it appears. Nothing. That's how magicians work. It looks like the box is this, that, or the other, and it's real, but it's not. It's fake. The whole thing is an illusion. That's why they're called illusionists, because the entire thing is an illusion. If they have you trying to hit a moving target called complexity, when complexity isn't even the industry standard, they're laughing all the way to the bank at you. At us. Now, do the frontline adjusters know what the real industry standard is? No, because you don't even know what it is. Who here knows what it is? So you think the field adjusters know? No, they know what they're fed. They drunk the Kool-Aid. They believe that anyone who is asking for anything more than their 40 line items, whether it be the homeowner or the contractor, they are greedy. They've drank the Kool-Aid. They don't want to believe that their supervisors are lying to them. So here is the real industry standard that exists in reality. If the consumer reasonably believes they have need for a general contractor, that's the actual industry standard for the payment of general contractors' overhead and profit. Did you know that? Wow. Are you glad you came today? That's it. Where do I get this from? Well, one of the places I get it from is the state insurance commissioner, because TWIA said, you know what TWIA is, right? The Texas Wind Insurance Association along the Texas coast. They said we're not paying overhead and profit without complexity and coordination and trades. And the insurance commissioner says, yes, you will, because here's the real industry standard that exists in reality. Boom. And it's right there in their, what's it called when they call TWIA on the carpet? I'll think of the name of it in a second. I'll post it on my Facebook forum. If you join my Facebook forum, you'll have this bulletin from the insurance commissioner. Okay? By the way, does it say that they have to hire a general contractor?
No.
It says if they reasonably believe they have need of one. They don't even have to hire one. They have to reasonably believe they have need of one, and they fit the criteria, and they have to pay overhead and profit. How about that?
Too many times the insurance company's telling you that they don't need a contractor.
So why do you say that? What's my favorite question? Why do you say that?
And then, now what I've done is I've had, as a matter of fact, last couple of weeks, one was a lady who lives out of town, another one's a guy who's getting ready to go for double lung surgery, so I got letters that said, that's why.
Yeah. So why do you say that? You say they have no need. Why do you say that? In other words, put up or shut up, right? Why do you say that? Why do you say they have no need? Put them in the hot seat. Let them answer the question. Why do you say that? So who decides whether or not the consumer reasonably believes they have the need? If the consumer reasonably believes they have a need. So who decides? In the standard. The consumer decides if they reasonably need. It's written into the standard. There's this whole slew of different lawsuits where the courts come back and say, this is the standard, this is the standard, this is the standard, this is the standard, and they all say the same thing. That's the industry standard. What's my objective third-party source material? The Texas Insurance Commissioner and all these lawsuits. Show me where your objective third-party source is the saying that complexity is an industry standard. It doesn't exist because it's not real. It's not real. It's made up. And the adjusters don't know it either. They don't know this.
So you came from an opinion of an Oklahoma lower appellate judge, and everybody's adopted it. Just an opinion.
What if general contractor's overhead and profit is the only dispute? You come to an agreed scope, but they won't pay overhead and profit. It's always appraisable because that's a pricing issue. We do those all the time. We call them desk appraisals because there's no need for a site visit. I mean, if the only thing in dispute is O&P, what are you going to look at? Are you going to do a site visit and talk about O&P? No, you can do that on the phone. There's no site visit necessary, so it costs less. Oh, this is one of the most important things I'm going to talk about here today. 90 to 95% of you sitting right here, your company is vulnerable to bankruptcy, and you don't even know it. Lawn Smith is a fine company, and they do great work. Boy, did they have a comedy of errors happen the last couple years. Man, it's a mess. They have a couple sentences in their paperwork that says that they're going to help the consumer out. And a judge has decided that this is a violation of the law. And if you have a contract that has a provision that violates the law, it voids the entire contract. That means you don't have a contract. That means the consumer doesn't owe you any money because they never contractually obligated themselves to pay you anything. So if they lose this class action lawsuit, then they're going to have to pay every consumer that joins the class action lawsuit, they're going to have to pay them back the entire cost of the roof, every roof going back 15 years. Can any company survive that? These guys have done 100,000 roofs. That's a bunch of roofs. Because of two seemingly innocuous sentences, seemingly harmless, that didn't hurt anybody, but it doesn't matter because the law is technical and they say technically these sentences violate the law, it voids your entire contract, it is null and void, you don't have a contract with your consumer. How do you know that you don't have similar sentences in your contract? I assure you that most of you do. How do I know this? Because Karen Inslee, who's the association counsel for the North Texas Roofing Contractors Association, looks at roofers contracts all day long, every day. And she says that 90% of the contracts that you guys use, you would be better off if you had no contract at all. Better off. You'd be safer to have no contract than the one you have. 90%. Wow. You know why? Because we just copy everyone else. We know how important is a contract anyway. By the way, you remember when I read off the list of the 6 reasons why these businesses go out of business? It was number 4, I think. Number 3, the number 3 reason why restoration contractors are going to go out of business: failure to use or improper use of legal contracts. Number 5, improper payment schedules in their contracts. Have you had a contract attorney who's board certified in construction law review your paperwork to make sure that your contracts, that you're good? Have you? I highly recommend that you do. Lawn Smith's standard printed contract, which the realty signed, is clear in its promise. Lawn Smith agreed to pursue homeowners' best interests for all repairs at a price agreeable to the insurance company. What's wrong with that? It's illegal, the judge decided. That's what's wrong with that. And to work out, quote, the final price agreed between the insurance company and Lawn Smith. Wow. Those are pretty simple, unassuming sentences, aren't they? It's going to take them down. I'm sorry to say, but they're going to lose. Do you have sentences like this in your contract? There's the lawsuit, if you want to follow it. Claims journal. Of course, claims journal is from the insurance company, right? Finally, the contractor is at risk. With this decision, there's now a strong body of case law in Texas helping consumers fight back, Steve Badger says. The homeowner is no longer stuck in the contract. The homeowner can now argue that the contract is void, illegal, and unenforceable, and simply walk away from it. Following the outcome of the Realty's case, another important development occurred when Longsmith filed a lawsuit against the homeowner Joe Key, a separate lawsuit in Tarrant County under similar circumstances. The court in that case struck down Longsmith's contract is void, illegal, and unenforceable also. Anybody heard of Merlin Law? They help a lot of the consumers with their insurance fights, all right? Unauthorized practice of public adjusting and the Lawn Smith roofing case should scare contractors and roofers with contingency contracts. The Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals agreed and affirmed the district court decision. Restoration contractors should run to their construction contract attorneys for help getting a proper construction contract redrafted, because I've seen hundreds of these types of contracts in various forms. Those contract attorneys trying to get around public adjuster license laws and unauthorized practice of law regulations should get increased legal malpractice, because they're going to get sued and maybe lose their ticket. This is serious stuff. Have you had your contract reviewed? Court hammers roofer who has acting as an adjuster. Anybody follow David Lieber here in town? He's like the consumer advocate guy who protects consumers, right? If you know anybody that hired Lawn Smith Roofing since 2003, tell them they are part of a class action lawsuit. Wow. By the way, contingency contracts, are they enforceable? Essentially what a contingency contract is saying is that we'll do some amount of work to be determined later for some price to be determined later. Can you get more vague than that? And we all know the more specific a contract it is, it's more enforceable, and the more vague it is, the less enforceable it is. Contingency contracts are dinosaurs. If you're using them, saying we're going to do the work for the final price with the insurance company, then guess what? You better have it reviewed. Solution is a two-part contract, a service contract and then a construction contract. The service contract says we're going to do all these pre-construction services in exchange for your agreement to enter into a work contract. So instead of saying we do free roof inspections, all that pre-construction work that you do actually now has a value instead of being free. And the value is the value of the construction contract, because that's the exchange. That's the way you do it, a two-part contract. And it's really easy to explain to consumers. They don't even do the second one until it's time to schedule the work. 3-day right of rescission, called the cooling off clause. When a contract is executed anywhere away from your office, do you know that you not only have to have a 3-day right of rescission paragraph on the front page of your main contract, it has to be right above the signature line, it has to be in 10-point bold, all caps. Man, this is really specific. 10-point bold, all caps, and it tells you where it has to be on the contract. And if it's not, guess what? Then you never give them an opportunity to do the 3-day right of rescission. They can come back a week, a month later, or you finish the roof and they say, wow, you did a great job on the roof. Thank you very much. I like my down payment back. I'm exercising my 3-day right of rescission because you didn't give me a legal 3-day right of rescission. I'm exercising it now. Give me my down payment back. And the court will force you to do that because your contract doesn't conform to the requirements that the State Attorney General's office says that it must. Did you know that you also has to have a separate right of rescission form, 3 copy, one for you, one for the client to sign, and one for them to keep if they want to exercise the 3-day right of rescission. A separate form in addition to the paragraph above the signature line on your contract. Do you have that? Every one of your clients can say, give me my down payment, give me all my money back. I'm exercising my 3-day right of rescission. Did you know that? Wow. What?
Include contracts signed and returned by email?
It includes any contract that's done away from your business, your office. If it's done away from your office, then you have to include the 3-day right of rescission. Go into, don't take my word for it, Google Texas General, Attorney General, Texas Attorney General, copy, comma, 3-day right of rescission. And read the requirements for yourself, right there in black and white. Most of you guys aren't conforming to this. And you're vulnerable to your consumer saying, give me all my money back. And the court forced you to do that. Because you never gave them what's required by law, the opportunity to back out of their contract. And if they're going to you're afraid they're going to back out of their contract. If they're going to back out of the contract, that means you never had them anyway. You haven't closed them. You never had them anyway. I'm not trying to be an ass. I'm just saying, and I've had it happen to me too. I never had them. They backed out of the contract. Well, guess what? I never had them. People buy from people they like and trust. And they either didn't like me or didn't trust me, or they're greedy and they want to, work the system.
How does that relate to commercial? How does that relate to commercial contracts?
It's the exact same thing. There's no difference, residential, commercial. It's the exact same thing. Unless they're signing the contract at your place of business, you have to have the 3-day right of rescission stuff on all your contracts. So, for those of you, a lot of you guys know Karen. How many of you guys know Karen? All right. I've never met a contract attorney that knew more contractors and understand. So you have a problem with the consumer, this or that or the other. And you go to Karen. So she sees his problem, and she sees John's problem, she sees Don's problem, she sees Adam's problems, right? And all of a sudden, so she writes a contract that covers all of these bases because she's dealing with roofers every day, all day long, and their problems. So when she writes a contract, it covers all those bases. Things that you would never think of because you haven't had Don's problems or John's problems. But John has. And so I highly recommend you take your phone And you do a snapshot of her phone number and give Karen a call. Okay. We have a Facebook forum. Not because I Facebook. I did for a while, but I have no time for this. But I do have a Facebook forum where contractors and public adjusters and plaintiff attorneys come on and they ask Tony and I questions about, I have an adjuster doing this, I have a claims department doing that, I have all these circumstances. How should I handle this? And we answer all your questions for free on our Facebook forum. Is that a good price?
It's fantastic.